the bathroom? No. You don't have to? Okay. I'll be back. Hold my knee. So somebody could be
9 feet. Okay. Now, are you happy now, Georgette?
Don't let them give you a hard time.
okay, now bring over some chairs over here. Everyone come over.
Wait.
Can we turn our phones off, Andrew?
I'm still in the process.
Yeah, you can't.
Okay. I want to do that. Nina's here too, but she went to the bathroom. The Hester Street bathrooms are open. Andrew and Mary. Thank you. So afterwards, if you have to use the bathroom, the Hester Street is closer. You don't have to walk upstairs anymore.
Okay, hold on. We're getting there. Okay. Bonjour. There to there. Yes, move. There is there.
But I'm always here.
I know you are. That's right.
You said wherever you go, there you are.
That's
On
right.
the other hand,
Now you have to say it when you live in New York City. They play the flute with a mask. And, and I finally got you can, but you still have your mouth this way. I tried to do it this way, and it was iffy as to whether I could get it in the right way. But when you do it this way, we can sort of do it, but sort of. So anyhow, but I am 9 feet away. I am 9 feet away, so I'm saying, okay, now.
I'm working on my immune system with my healthy food and no alcohol and exercise.
No booze and
Why no alcohol?
Let me see if this still plays. Oh,
Everyone, can you come around? Come around to see the concert.
Now I'd like to announce to everybody, including the people in back of me, you will have to save your reminiscences about what happened a number of years ago in art school talking about turpentine, okay? You'll have to wait for 40 minutes.
they're not waiting.
I know they're not. Hi. Thank you. Okay? I love conversations about turpentine myself. In fact, the Greek women used to drink it all the time, by the way. The ancient Greek women. Yes, that's partly what killed off the nobility. Because they discovered if you drink really good turpentine, you can make your urine smell like flowers. Of course, the bad effect is, of course, you'll ruin your kidneys. They also covered their faces with white lead, too. That's the other thing. To look nice. Okay, you can imagine that. Okay, so here we are, okay, in our annual get-together. And we're going to start with the Earth is our mother first, okay? Because we always start with the Earth is our mother, okay? And Uncle Shmuel is going to help us out. He's going to give us the drum, and Mary will cue him as to how to do it. And, of course, we can all join in, which is the words are, the Earth is our mother, she will take care of us. The Earth is our mother, she will take care of us. And then the Earth is our mother, we must take care of her. Okay, we must take care of her. Okay, so, and Mary, you can, exactly, Mary alternately will raise her cover and lower it. Okay. And so, Mary, do you want to cue him up to the drum? Louder or what?
Earth is our mother, we'll take
participation.
More participation.
Okay, let's try with a little part. Thank you very much, by the way. But let's try with a little, what is it? Earthly, motherly, whatever, okay?
In other words, we want you to sing along.
That's the idea, okay? Just like Mitch Miller, okay?
Bouncy ball.
That
Where's
sure
the
dated
bouncy
me,
ball?
boy. Okay.
The earth is our mother. She will take care of us. The earth is our mother. She will take care of us. Hey, Anna, oh, Anna, hey, Anna. Hey, Anna, oh, Anna, hey, the earth is our mother. We must take care of her. The earth is our mother. We must take care of her. Hey, Anna, oh, Anna, hey, Anna. Hey, Anna, oh, Anna, hey, Anna. The earth is our mother. She will take care of us. The earth is our mother. She will take care of us. Hey, Anna, oh, Anna, hey, Anna. Hey, Anna, oh, Anna, hey, Anna.
Thank you. Thank you.
Show the peace band.
Okay, now, for no other reason than just, I think, Mary and I like this piece over many years. We're going to do Song for Susan Stone. And Song for Susan Stone has a lyric which we can all participate in at a certain point. And the lyric is, tough cookies. That's it. He told me when he worked at WPAI, there was a woman there, one of the engineers, and her name was Susan Stone, and she would say, for practically anything appropriate or inappropriate, she would simply say, tough cookies. So what he did was he divided tough cookies up, because you can do that. It's a compound phrase. You can say tough, which is like a quarter note, and cookies divides in two. Coo is like the equivalent of an eighth note, or half of a beat. And you do coo, 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 keys. And keys, is a dotted quarter. That's a beat and a half. So it's keys, 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 keys. Or one of the composer's favorite things was to say cookies, 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 as opposed to cookies, cookies, cookies. He would say cookies, cookies, cookies. Okay, all of that is possible. Now, what you do is we all would start. Actually, what we're going to do is this. All of the audience will be going constantly. Tough cookies, tough cookies, tough cookies, tough cookies. Don't be shy, please. Okay, don't be shy, and be assertive, please. Okay, we live in a very assertive age right now. Okay, so you can be assertive too. And when we got here, we met up with a bunch of cyclists who were very assertive, and we had to be assertive back. You thought they were all riding on Harleys, for instance, the way they were driving. Okay? Anyhow, so you guys will be constantly doing tough cookies, tough cookies, tough cookies, and Mary and I will meander through cool and tough and keys. Let's see how that works. Okay, so let's start. Tough cookies, 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 keys, 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 Thank you all, okay, for the participation. Wonderful. Thank you, Minerva, for the final tough. It was you.
Okay. It was tough.
It was
Tough,
you.
tough.
I mean, that's you. Okay, now we're going to go to sort of the regular part of the program, and but don't worry, you'll be back, all of you, and doing things that we need. But right now, we're going to start with Yankee Doodle, and we're going to do it. There are 3 different versions of it. First, I'll do the original version as it appeared in a book called Riley's Flute Melodies, which was from all around the world from the time of the War of 1812 or just afterwards in New York City. Okay. And now I've learned that the origin of Yankee Doodle, the actual tune, is probably Spanish. What do you think of that? Okay. Anyhow. Okay. And of course, the secret meaning of the lyric is pretty obvious. And I think that we all learn it as children in school, and we're forced to learn it. And it's all about Yankee or Doodle. Okay? Leave it up. It's right there, but the teachers make you learn it anyhow. Okay. Now, thank you. Now we'll do a version which appeared in, my goodness, 1767. And it was actually, I don't think it was actually even performed in the public. It was for a play. I think it's listed. And the problem was the censors got a hold of it and said, no, 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 no. And so it was shut down before it even opened in Philadelphia. And I don't know if you'd call it a play or a ballad opera, but anyhow, it was one of those. But that's the version we're going to do now. And the words are also the original words.
Oh, how joyful I shall be when I get the money. I will bring it all to thee on my diddling honey. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. Oh, how joyful I shall be when I get the money. I will bring it all to thee on my diddling honey. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy.
Now we do the version that we all know and love. Okay, so actually, the version that we all know and love has about 14 verses, so we're only going to do a couple of them. Okay.
Oh, Father, I went down to Capernaum with Captain Good, and there we saw the men and boys that his hasty time. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, oh Yankee Doodle dandy. my music and the step and with the monkey handy. And there was Captain Roger Todd upon a snapping style, but giving orders to his men because there wasn't king. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, oh Yankee Doodle dandy. My music and the step and with the monkey handy. And there I see us something so large as a log of meat upon a mighty little cart on her father's cattle. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, oh Yankee Doodle dandy. My music and the step and with the trophy handy.
Bravo, bravo, very good.
Thank you. Now, let's clear this all out. Now I'm going to do a piece that actually I unearthed and found to my delight that I liked it. And it's
6 feet.
by Willard Roosevelt. To all those who say, is he related? To which I say, yes, he's related. He's Teddy Roosevelt's grandson. And I played the premiere of this piece in 1976. And it was for the 200th anniversary of Paul Revere's ride, which we did in North Bennington, Vermont, which is a beautiful little town which used to be called Sage City. Much nicer name, Sage City. Okay. And Willard had been a commander of a naval destroyer in the Second World War. And so basically by issuing commands, he lost his voice by shouting all the time. So when I talked to him, basically what he sounded like was and I would say, of course, yes, of course. I can't remember a single thing he said other than that. And when I met him, he was married a second time. His wife was a very nice lady. And she said, hello, I'm Mrs. Roosevelt. I'm a nobody. That's what she said. Because his first wife, it turned out, his first wife didn't know it when she married Willard, but she was the daughter of E.E. Cummings. She found out when she was about 25 years old. She didn't know? She didn't know. That's right. Anyhow. And Willard started a family with his second wife. He had a whole family with his first wife, and he started a second family, and there were two little boys that were running around for all the concerts we did at the time. And one of the boys was Willard's grandson, and the other one was Willard's son. And so the grandson was actually older than the son. And so the uncle, as it turns out, was younger than his nephew. Okay, it's kind of like the song "I Am My Own Grandpa." You know, it kind of works like that. But they all worked it out. You know, they were Roosevelts. Actually, they all talked. The men and the women. Okay, here we go. This is Paul Revere's Ride. Upside down, is that it? Okay, hold on. Okay, this is another of our old favorites, The World Upside Down, which is what the British Army Band played when Cornwallis was surrendering to Washington, Yorktown. Cornwallis was not there. I guess the prospect of surrendering was, anyhow, he had a bad case of the Boston Trots, as they used to call it. In any case, it's a historical fact that Washington, the first thing that he said to the British aide who was there to accept, to turn over the sword for surrender, the first thing Washington said was, "Where are my slaves? I want them back." Okay. At which point the British officer said, "Sir, I gave my word as a British gentleman and an officer of the British Army that they were free and they're on a boat now to Nova Scotia." And that was that. So, okay, so now we're going to do the piece, The World Upside Down.
Settle in.
Okay. This is still a concert. Thank you.
If buttercups buzz after the feast, if dogs were on land, churches on sea, if ponies rode men, and if grass ate the cows, and cats would be chased into holes by the mouse, if the mama sold their babies to the gypsies for half a crown, if summer was spring and the other way round, then all the world would be upside down. If buttercups buzzed after the bees, if boats were on land, churches on sea, if ponies rode men, and if grass ate the cows, and cats would be chased into holes by the mouse, if the mama sold their babies to the gypsies for half a crown, if summer was spring and the other way round, then all the world would be upside down.
Thank you. Okay, here we go. We're going to do Simple Gifts, okay, in the arrangement by Aaron Copland. The Shakers were one of many religious sects that had all sorts of things of, I guess, I would say, dealing with sex. And their solution was, you didn't do it. That was it. But instead you'd have these very fervent religious rites, basically, where people would dance to the point of total exhaustion. And that's why they were referred to as shakers. It would have been so much easier otherwise. Okay.
Tis the gift to be simple, tis the gift to be free, tis the gift to come down where you want to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, we'll be in the valley of love and when true simplicity is gained, to bow and to beg we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come and right. Tis the gift to be simple, tis the gift to be free, tis the gift to come down where you want to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, we'll be in the valley of love and
Obligado by Mary, right?
No, this is
is
Aaron.
I'm sorry, that was
That's Aaron
Copeland.
Cope.
That was
I just basically took, what can I say? I did the,
Well, the world has like that down there,
absolutely.
and then she's also from Scotland, America.
That's right. And she also did the version of Yankee Doodle, as you know, with her. Yeah. Now this land is your land, and we're going to possibly do something else with this too. You want to discuss it? Yes, as a matter of fact. Well, it turns out that the song for This Land Is Your Land is a black spiritual. And Mary will sing it.
Okay. It's called When the World's on Fire. Oh, my loving mother, when the world's on fire, and you want God's bosom to be your pillow, hide me over in the rock of ages. Rock of ages, wept for me.
Yeah. There's a very beautiful version. It's very hard to find that version with a black choir singing. It's almost impossible. But it's much more readily available to find one with the Carter family. An historic recording from the 1920s, which is quite beautiful, as a matter of fact. And if you're interested in tunings, their instruments are tuned in mean tone temperament, which is according to perfect thirds, which is not how we tune now. So all of it sounds more rounded and softer. It would be the equivalent of the difference between commercially available beer and beer that's home brewed. Okay, that would be the difference. The kind of fizz you get with home brewed beer as opposed to this aggressive bubble up stuff with commercially available beer. That's the same idea. How to hear with your taste buds. Okay, here's This Land Is Your Land.
And this is a group sing.
It's a group sing, yes.
Yeah.
There are lyrics. There are lyrics. Oh yes, that's sorry, thank you.
This land is your land. This land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the desert forest to the western border. This land was made for you and me. There's never talking, better than crying. There's no unholy, better than serving. There's something lonely, better than dying. This land was made for you and me. I moved the Bible, I found my footsteps. There's nothing sadder, we're down in desert. And around the valley, a place for singing. This land was made for you and me. There was a big time walking from the sunny. A sign was painted, saying I could run me. But on the backside, it used to nothing. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island, to the western forest, to the Dulce waters. This land was made for you and me. This land was made for you and me.
Thank you. Thank you.
No rent, no rent.
Now. This is a tune you're going to be now hearing quite a lot of in the future. Apparently, they've decided before all major football games, people are going to be singing this before the national anthem. Okay? So it's called Lift Every Voice and Sing. It's known popularly as the Black National Anthem. Okay. Have I got this pinned down successfully? Okay.
This too is a group sing.
Yeah. Okay. So. So when you get to hear it before the next football game, you'll say, "Oh, I know that tune. I learned in Sara Delano Roosevelt Park." Okay. Yeah, it is. Okay. This is a marvelous work for solo flute. They do it this way. Okay. It's called Pie Piper of Harlem, and he gives a very short note, which is, the composer said, to celebrate children at a Sunday service at a Unitarian church in Norfolk, Virginia. He says the piper arrives in town, convinces the children to follow him, and tells them to take the A train to get to the magic land of Harlem. Okay, well, anyhow, if you know the prices of real estate now in Harlem, I think you're right, it is magic. Okay. Okay. You have all the titles. Okay, so I'll do 2 movements, then I have to turn the page to facilitate the wind. Okay. This is With a Twinkle in His Eye. Okay, this is Get On Board. Should I do that movement again without the local color?
Let's do it once again.
Okay, I think we might like the local color. Okay, exactly. Right, we would
Let's do it for the recording. Yeah.
Okay, right, exactly. Thank you. Thank you. I think you might like the pretty one better. Okay, now we're going to do God Bless America. And this is going to involve audience participation. Please listen carefully to Mary Hurlbut.
I'm going to sing it through once, and then I'll signal you to come in the second time to repeat the chorus, and the Home Sweet Home is going to be doubled out. In other words, the note's going to last longer, twice as long.
Yeah.
When the storm clouds gather full across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for a land so fair, as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her America, and the land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, way before. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
Is that it?
No, no.
Star-Spangled Banner.
Minerva, please.
Of course, I almost forgot.
My God.
We already did the Black Anthem. I forgot about the other one.
Tisk, tisk.
I already forgot about our warlike flag still flying after the fire. I almost forgot about it.
All they have to do is the fourth verse of the Star-Spangled Banner, and we'll have a real revolution on our hands.
What's
So,
the
like,
fourth verse? I have to look
oh
it up
my
now.
gosh.
I'll look it up. Worse.
Oh, what?
Blood and guts, huh?
It's frightful.
We stand up to do the Star-Spangled Banner.
We will invite people to either stand, kneel, or sit. How's that?
I think we've covered everything except for
Beer milk.
nobody,
Except for one
except for
leg.
lying prone. How's that?
Supine,
Supine.
surrender position.
Supine.
What's that next?
Okay, I have to find my place.
Okay, up we go.
I know. I'm sorry.
Can we wave a flag?
God, I can't believe it. I mean, no, it's all the lighting is.
I know.
Yeah.
Who wants to wave a flag?
Who wants to wave a flag? You get one.
Nobody wants to wave a flag.
Okay.
Stand behind.
Minerva even has a stick without a flag.
Stand
so all
behind.
those
You want a
who
flag?
Want to be non-committal.
A fellow from Brittany is always welcome to wave
Stand
an
behind.
American flag.
Yes.
And we have the other flag too.
Yeah, that's very patriotic.
Oh, this is the one.
That's what the stick went. He took the stick. Oh, there it is. There you go. Okay.
Oh, I think I pulled the thing off.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Ready?
Okay, I'm going to give you an introduction, so you don't have to sing the introduction.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose
right here in Sara Delano Roosevelt Park.
Well, Minerva, you pulled it off again.
That was good. Thank Andrew and Mary.
Yay!
And now don't leave yet. Gabriella Long is going to show us how the colonial women dress. She's going to undress down to her petticoats. And you're going to see how they put a little false under their waistlines to give them a better waist.
Maybe she has some strip music. Da 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 da. Colonial version.
Okay, Gabriella, let's welcome Gabriella Long. I'll do it later.
Okay, I'm Gabriella Long. I'm from up near Peekskill. I've been doing Revolutionary War reenacting primarily on the Crown Forces and British Royalist side for about 30 years. God save the King. Happy Traitors Day, you ungrateful colonists. I always said for years we were lucky that we won the war, otherwise we'd be stuck to socialized medicine. Looks like we're getting it anyhow, so whatever. I am dressed like the average common middling woman of the time. They were much more social class aware than we are. And you can tell somebody's class by the type of, not so much by the style of clothing. And all dresses are called gowns. Gown doesn't necessarily mean silk or gown. Gown is a dress. This is a very common gown made out of linen. Now I can dress this up and down, and I'm going to do that. First of all, let me say, forget the hair. I've got way too much dreadlock hair. I cannot get it under a cap. There is no evidence of any white woman having dreadlocked hair. There's not even any evidence and good documentation of African or African American women or women of color in the colonies having dreadlocks. We do know that in the Caribbean, women wrapped with bright scarves. We don't know what was underneath that. So this is completely wrong. It's just because I can't get anything up. I can't get it into a cap anymore. Normally I would have something over my head. Usually a straw cap, artificial flowers.
Over a cap?
Oh yeah, cap always. But for going outside, nobody wanted the sun getting on them. Okay. If your skin was tanned, it's because you were working outside in the fields as a laborer. So that was not what anybody wanted to be. Even the household servants wanted to look refined. Everybody wanted to look like their betters. You know, the servant class loved to get the hand-me-downs. You know, so that way they could look good when they went to church, things like that. This is kind of my fancy hat, and I'll put these on a little bit better later for drawing. Okay. Just a little straw hat with silk ribbon. They absolutely had silk. Don't forget, it came from China like a couple hundred years ago after Marco Polo. So they had silk. They had silk weaving in Spitalfields in England. The Huguenots were silk weavers. They came over to New York. To New World. Now I can't get these over my head anymore. Silk bonnets. Can I borrow somebody's head for a second? Anybody? This is ladies' wear, sir.
Oh,
I don't think that would have flown you though.
He's a lady. He can wear it.
This is a common silk bonnet. Everyday kind of wear. Mother Seton's nuns adapted the bonnet that they wore with their habit for many, many years from this, which would have been from late 18th, early 19th century widow's weeds. So again, very common, a little bit bad-eared. This is the fancy dress one. Isn't that nice?
Wow.
Isn't that nice? I didn't make that. I bought that. I did make this. Did a workshop.
Is it silk?
Yeah, silk. They're both silk.
Oh,
and that one's lined with changeable silk. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so
Effie, let's see Effie. Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
You look great. Yeah. They look good on pretty.
Looking for a hat.
Yes, yeah.
There's wire, here's
There's wire in it, and it's got buckram underneath it, and it's been rained on a few times and gotten battered. But like I said, I just got way too much hair. Minerva had mentioned the bung roll. Pretty much universally, the preferred look for women has been hourglass.
Big butts.
Yeah, not as much as the Venus of Willendorf, but in the 18th century, we're not talking about the wasp waist, super cinched in. Toward the end of the 18th century, in French, there was French illustrations that were basically satires. That's where you see somebody like that trying to pull them in. Tighter waist came later. Actually, Gibson girls had a much tighter waist. Victorian era had a much tighter waist. I am wearing a set of stays. We'll get down to them. But I have got there's a trompe-l'oeil effect here.
What effect?
Trompe-l'oeil. Fool the eye here. Especially on this particular gown. Besides the fact that it's got vertical stripes in the back, it's all everything comes down to the waist. And in this case, this is one long piece of fabric from the neckline all the way down. It's an evolution from the Watteau gown or sack-back gown or robe à la française, which had the fabric come from the shoulders and felt like a fall off the back. At some point, the fashion started to bring that in, pleat it down, and then it evolved into an English gown or round gown where you have more like a separate bodice. But at this time, we do have beautiful. It's incredible. if I do say so myself. Now, I'm wearing, and I swear I never wear white because I always spill things. This gussies it up. This nice lawn kind of apron gussies it up. Aprons were ubiquitous. You wore them all the time, not just for wiping your hands on if you were a cook. Even some court gowns had like a vestigial apron because part of it was the look. There were a lot of things that were a look, which is
And what kind of fabric is that?
this
Cotton.
This one I think this thing might be cotton. It might be cotton. I actually did not make this myself, but it would have been cotton or linen. Linen was the ubiquitous fiber. Linen was grown everywhere. Cotton at this time in the colonies, you had very little solid colored cotton. It was more expensive than linen. Most cotton was grown in India or Egypt. It was a long stapled cotton. What eventually was grown in this country. What was grown in this country was a short stapled cotton that was not economically viable until the invention of the cotton gin. So you didn't have big cotton plantations until after the cotton gin. 18th century was mostly linen. Most of the cotton in the 18th century was printed, and that the original calicos, not the little tiny things like you see for frontier ladies in the quilt shops, but calicos were block printed on cotton, and the more colors, the more expensive because you needed a separate dye and sometimes a separate mordant for each color. And to get green, you had to do blue and yellow. To get purple, you had to do red and blue. So those were very, very expensive. So a multicolored, 5 or 6 color chintz in those days was more expensive could be more expensive than silk.
And you're saying that the cotton was grown, it was woven, and it was printed all here in the States?
Very little cotton, very little cotton.
Got it. So
for
fabric,
fabric.
those calicos
Yeah.
you're talking about come from
Much of it came. Much of it was printed in India also. Although I think they probably started printing in Britain. I'm not real up on that. But calico, a multicolored, 3 and 5 color calico, the more colors you have, the more high end it was. And it was often used more for jackets and stuff. So this, again, you'll notice that this is stitched up. Women's clothing did not have buttons or
Zipper.
Nice or things like that. Things are constantly changing with pregnancies and everything else going on in our lives. You just stitch yourself up every day.
Every morning.
Yeah. It just takes a couple minutes. And the fact that linen can stand it. Linen can stand it better than cotton can. Actually. So I've been doing this for years.
Yeah, like a loose stitch.
Yeah, just doesn't have to be fancy. Looking at the insides of gowns, and I'm talking high-end silk gowns, is very interesting. I've seen a couple of them personally. I've seen lots of photographs of them. They are very roughly stitched together on the inside because there was a lot of altering. When styles changed, they take it apart and they remake it. So and you didn't wash them. You might spot clean them. Sometimes the silks were hand painted, so there didn't take a lot. There wasn't a lot of wash, so they were very casually put together. Our laundering, we got yeah. Most outer garments were not cleaned all that often. Your body linen, which for men was the long sleeve shirt, which went down to here. And for women, the shift, which again is down to here. This is underwear. This is also nightwear. And what you didn't again, wealthier people might have more sets of body linens and this, that, and the other thing. But in general, most people didn't have a lot of sets of clothes. Your outer garments would be laundered. But much less often. But your body linen would be and your cap would be washed relatively frequently. Every week with the big oil the laundry thing. That really did happen. In the South,
And why were they boiled?
that was how you got hot water. Okay, how you got water.
What's because of bugs?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the kind of soap you had to have hotter water than what our detergents now use, and you really needed that heat. Yeah. Wash day was a big deal. So that's another whole story. So I am wearing one petticoat. These skirts are always called petticoats or some kind of coats for short. This again is linen. It's got some banding at the bottom. This is called ferreting. This is to protect the bottom edge of the garment. Fabric was expensive, labor was cheap. Okay, so you were not going to potentially waste fabric by hemming it the way we do, and then when it gets worn, you've wasted all that fabric. Okay, so ferreting is very common, self-color, contrasting color, or contrasting print. People did a lot of piecing. I have a completely worn reversible jacket here. And if you notice, the whole back section is all pieced. Okay? Because I had to decrease the waist after I started making it. Let's see. See, this is all pieced up here.
Yeah.
Okay? All right.
So the skirts, because they're so long, don't they get dirty and walking on the dirt and all that?
Well,
and
women that were really doing domestic work and stuff, would have had shorter petticoats. Okay, there was not a deal about ankles being immodest. Wealthier women were the only ones that would have had petticoats that would have been trailing them because they didn't really do anything except act decorative. But the rest of us that have to work for a living, we're going to have appropriately shortened. If you're working around the fire cooking, you're probably wearing a lightweight wool all year round because it's less likely to burn. And your petticoats may be up to here. There's ethnic variations too. The German women traditionally wore shorter petticoats than other European women, and you can always hike everything up.
I was just going to ask,
Always.
what was the method of
Well, I mean, hike them up, stick it into the waist,
So when they walk
of the apron.
outside, cross the road with all the shit and all that.
Well, again, it depends on who you are and what you're doing. And to be fashionable, even more fashionable, I can hike up
The skirt.
tie this up with these nifty little strings and get kind of the bo peep look here.
Nice.
Polonaise fashion. Polonaise style. Like that. Then you get that look. But this is merely decorative, Right. Yeah, decorative and fashionable. So let me see.
Oh,
So this is a bum roll.
the pillow.
does that make sitting more comfortable?
The furniture that they had forced you to sit upright with your back straight. This is miserable in the bucket seat of a car. So that's not what they were built for. But people didn't sit with their pelvis tucked underneath them. That gets into a whole thing of childhood. Go up on that stage. That's why we have so much back labor, because we're all sitting with our pelvis tucked under. Most of our life, and the back of the baby's head settles in the back. But that's another story. So yeah, you weren't flopping around all over the place. So anyhow, this could be padded with wool, with cork. Thank God, God made fiber filled. For most of us opt for these days. I could also add hips if I wanted.
So it's like a pillow,
On the side.
a cushion, huh?
On the side. If you want to put a little bit more. If you wanted to. Oh, I mean, they were.
Think men were disappointed once they.
I think everybody knew what the game was.
You mean falsies for the hips?
You grew up in the culture. You knew what the deal was. I mean, how could any man?
You knew your mother was wearing it, so your girlfriend was wearing it.
Exactly. Okay, so we have a little bit more out.
Oh goodness.
More out to the side.
Fascinating.
Of course. And then after that, you've got panniers or small side hoops and side pockets.
And hoop skirts.
Yeah.
Well, not completely all around. No, that's 19th century.
Oh, 19th.
But we did have some, especially the court gowns. Were there? I mean, you couldn't. They couldn't get through the door because they were so wide. But it was
They went
round.
sideways.
It was a flat look. It wasn't the round that
Like Velasquez.
yeah.
And those constructions.
There was a thing where they could push it down and it would go this way so they could get through the door.
It's not practical. And this is to be meant onto I mean, this is not even. We can't even imagine what the level. This is above gold. This is above your daughter's wedding. This is at court, in the presence of the king or the queen or whoever. This is very, very high end with the really wide panniers, and it's amazing how many of them are still around. They were preserved. Common people's clothes. There's almost no actual extant clothing because it didn't last. It got worn. It got remade, remodeled. Linen gets turned into rag paper. Okay.
They turned it into paper.
Eventually, or out rag paper.
Linen rag.
Rag paper was the best quality paper. Still is. Yeah. If you can get it. 10 more minutes.
Dropped your hips.
Gabriella, 10 more minutes. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So underneath, I got a pocket. Remember Lucy Lockett lost her pocket? Okay, because women's clothing did not have pockets in it. Most men's clothing did not have functional pockets either. The little pocket flaps were kind of, again, more for show. There wasn't much, if anything, of a pocket. Maybe a little thing like that, like on the front of the jeans. But women's clothing definitely did not have pockets, so you had a pocket slit into access your pocket here. And here
You want to turn around and show everyone around, because some of them can't see it.
So they gotta lift up their skirt and.
There's a split.
Oh.
Well, actually, the reality one is that the petticoat is made out of two panels, a front panel and a back panel. All right.
Oh.
So yeah, no, but it's a front and a back panel, and then where they overlap at the side is where you're going to have your pocket square.
God, lots of strings.
Okay, there can you can have 8 to 10 around your waist by the time you add everything up.
Oh yeah.
You really can. Thank God for linen. Linen is much more breathable than cotton. You cannot believe the difference. When I started out, to save money, I made my first shift out of cotton muslin. And when I made my first linen one, the difference was incredible. Linen just brings so much better. All right. And I have got a set of stays. Stays were the basic undergarment. Okay, if I were walking around, and you'll see this in movies all the time, it's the Hofbrauhaus beer maid look. With just the stays and the shift. In the 18th century, that woman is wearing a bra and a slip. Okay, that was underwear. It was not meant to be seen. The only exception, very few exceptions, is if women are doing really heavy work, like in the kitchen, doing laundry, doing field work. They would temporarily take their jacket off, put it aside, work in their stays, but then they would put it back on. Same with the men. Men did not go around in their shirt sleeves and waistcoat with the jacket on. That was what was proper. So that jacket would have been the kind of thing that would have been worn over a petticoat. But stays, again, were not to give you the skinny waist. What they gave you was the proper posture, the proper look. The silhouette that they wanted was kind of like a conical ice cream cone shape, flat on the back, relatively straight back. The only time some of us have got any kind of posture. Children were put in stays, including little boys. Little boys were dressed like little girls until they were reached at around anywhere between 5 and 7. The dresses or gowns that the boys wore generally were plainer than what the girls wore. And by portraits you can tell because of what kind of toy they're holding. They have a toy horse rather than a doll.
They let them wear their hair long too, the boys?
Yeah.
They had curls.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for adult men, the norm was clubbed. Was like what we would call a ponytail. Was clubbed and tied back. Depending on your income, where you were socially, side curls and all that stuff. That was a class thing, military thing. Okay, let me see. Ask me some questions. I never know what people are.
I have a question about the stays. Do the stays go up like to here, or do they go to here?
No,
they're
the top of the stays are supposed to be at the nipple line. Yeah, at the nipple line, and they're supposed to basically nice mounds. Not over the top, not shaking your face, kind of thing. It was perfectly okay to show some cleavage, and these are new stays, so I'm still getting used to them. Okay. So we're probably good with this. Okay, good. Okay, even for a woman of my age. But there was generally always, especially, there was always a neckerchief, a neck handkerchief. Again, not so much for modesty. Part of it was just to protect your skin. But that was usually, and again, part of the look. But this underneath and hanging over the top. God bless people that make so-called historical movies, you know. the lead female's clothing is generally always the worst because they get very creative with that. You know, the people in the background usually are better. And the clothing in film and in TV has gotten better. You know, has gotten better, not as bad as it was.
Do you find the same thing on the opera stage? Because I've been looking at a lot of historical costumes.
You know, I really don't know. You know, and considering that a lot of operas were different time period.
You're gonna start
You know,
over there.
not. I mean, I'm a pretty narrow.
The shade.
Yeah, you want to
Third quarter, 18th century. Big changes before that. In the 1750s, French and Indian War, very different look. 1790s, you start having the rising waistline, where you start getting into the more empire style starts creeping in. You see the waistline on men's go up. The upper body gets tighter. So again, 100 years is a long time in fashion. Even then, fashion dolls and fashion plates came over from France. Everybody wanted to look like the French. But there were very different, styles from the Italians to the Spanish to the French to the English court. In this country, again, you did not have the class system. The thing that was so unique about this country is you literally could start out as an indentured servant, and if you played your cards right and you became a businessman, this, that, and the other thing, you really could achieve. And you could become a gentleman of substance. Women, unfortunately, was mostly through marriage, but you did not have any of that in Europe. You were really locked in with primogeniture and
England's primogeniture.
Yeah, and in other countries you were locked into the trade that you apprenticed to.
Yeah.
So you did not have that class mobility in Europe like you.
The British were clever with primogeniture because they kept their classes really.
Yeah, well.
They kept their estates together.
Yes, exactly. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff goes into everything. Nothing is so simple. Even what we learn in school and what their kids are learning in school is like just a sliver of what I learned in school, just a sliver. But even what I learned in school is just a very, very small piece of everything that was going on. It's very easy to say American patriots good, British and became bad, but people don't realize that at the time of the Revolution, it was a divided country. Only about a third of the people really supported the revolution, mostly the New Englanders. And they had, John Adams had millions of pounds owed to the government in terms of smuggling. So he had a vested interest. The South was much more royalist. They had no industrial base. They were much more tied to the ground. The middle colonies, which includes us, it was civil war. Most people didn't care who won if it wasn't their chicken coop who raided that.
We're moving on that side.
And it was no man's land, and the loyalists treated horribly. And if they were lucky, they got out to Nova Scotia. Oh, what he mentioned about what Washington, just one last thing, what he mentioned was Washington wanting his slaves back. There was a big get-together up in Tappan. Samuel Francis came up to cater it. It was between the British and the American higher-ups to negotiate the settlement for the retreat from New York after Fort Wallace. And the colonists, the Americans, fought very, very hard for the return of quote-unquote their property. And yes, the Crown had promised any slave who got to New York, got behind the British lines, they would promise them safe passage to Nova Scotia, and they did make good on that. So.
Well, they abolished slavery very much 100 years before we did. But then they indentured servants.
Well, indentured servants.
People from India, indentured servants.
Indentured servants
they
were actually what we are being told in this revisionist history that is now going around. The first people people of color that came here as actually as indentured servants. There was not slavery per se. There were white indentured servants. There were people of mixed color.
Now wait, we have to go ahead to the next step because it's almost 2. So we're gonna have 10 2s and 2 5s over there. You're gonna be over there. Henry, you're gonna be here. 10 2s, 2 5s over there. All right, here. This is yours. And then, do you want to stay here? Can we do 10 2s and 2 5s?
Sure.
Or do you want to take a little break and we're gonna have?
Give me 2 minutes.
Yeah, and we're gonna start with Christoph and Elizabeth. Thank you.
Yes, we can Zoom. Took my kid to a local reenactment when he was about 8.
Lucky if he has enough energy to call up.
And there were some people there spinning and waving, and I was a fiber
But Jackie's still working out, right?
Yes, she is. She's lovely.
Oh, she is.